It's time to suspend your disbelief once again. Welcome back, everyone. This is your goddess, Sarah Bellight, bringing you once again back into the world of In Other Waters. I hope you have all been taking good care of yourselves. Between episodes, I have done some serious audio management. I don't know why on earth my mic decided one to sound be way less sensitive, but that's what happens. One of these days I'll get myself a professional mic. In any case, for the time being, I've adjusted the gains on the mic. So, through OBS. Hopefully, at least as far as my little test recording's gone, that should improve my volume significantly and balance it a little bit better with the game's audio level. Though y'all probably don't want to hear much of that then. You probably want me to get right back into the adventure. So, feel free to lay back, rest your eyes, and listen to this amazing world. And my ramblings, of course. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy, and don't be afraid to share it with a friend who you think might enjoy my adventures too. Let's get into it. Crystal cylinders. Within the open structure of these nests, swarms of glittering particles form shifting shapes. Nesting creature. Within these complex translucent structures, these swarms of bright creatures provide vital safe zones in the bloom. Let's start logging data on them. Yeah? The blurred activity of many individual creatures can be seen. This must be a nest. Silicate skeletons. These ornate domes and pore spheres of these skeletons glint in the purity of their silica growths. And also, wherever we're at, it's probably just because I loaded a save. The one thing I do not like about this game, though I could always cheese it to my advantage if I ever get stuck, is that power and oxygen just reset when you log out. It does make somewhat sense, because technically our rebreather actually is working better than it goes, but it takes oxygen to do certain actions. I don't know. Let's head over this. Let's meet our new friends. I had a feeling we'd sample it. These colonies do well to hold out against the bloom. Yeah, they must be eating it. The individual creatures seem to be able to digest the microbial growth. We can use this. We should try deploying a colony, see if we can create our own safe zone inside this toxic flood. That would be cool. These strange forms scattered around inside the bubbles. Are those skeletons? Skeletons for what? They resemble Radiolorans, but far bigger in scale. They are incredibly ornate. A colony of scattered domes lying in the silvery slant. What were these creatures? Indeed. Sphere fragment. An ornate mineral orb honeycombed with oxygen bubbles. Oh, that produces a lot of oxygen. That produces a little bit of power. That produces a little bit of oxygen. Burnt out drone. A small construction drone from the base, corroded beyond use. What was minea building out here? So there's something out here then. Toxic waters. Beyond the bubble, the green clouds gather again. With the water sapped of all oxygen. What can be fueling this endless growth? Some sort of creature. Potentially mold-like, where it's producing a environment where only it can survive in. Toxic waters. The strange fizzing light provides little comfort in this bizarre wasteland. Alright, so it did want us to test this out. Nest workers. Oh, that's cool. Handy. I'd like to keep one on hand for when it actually gets dangerous, then. Nothing but green water and broken rock. Toxic rock. Toxic waters, the shapes corroded outcrops. Silt in the west like sleeping giants. Between the sharp rocks, a pale strip of sand leads through the green. Bivalve creature, we can trigger you. Shell pile. Let's, head over there before we run out of oxygen. Here we go. Shell pile. Between the two rocks, a pile of shell fragments is gathered. Bronze one glimmers among the green. We could sample it here. So it actually is a copper-based shell. Or bronze shell. Bivalve shell. Bronze-colored bivalve shell found in the bloom. Bivalve bloom vein. These strange creatures are getting a big name. Bivalve bloom veins. What do you think? Yeah, I like it. I like it too. We can log them into taxonomy back at the base. I'm planning on it. A fan-finned creature which seals itself within the shell as a form of protection. When it is awoken, it feeds on the bloom's toxic microbes. So that's another one we can wake up. Yay! No. Silt drift. Piles of silt have gathered up against the melted rocks, filling in the gases beneath the strange, disordered overhangs. Toxic waters. Shards of rock with green clouds between turn the seafloor into miniature landscape. And then we're back into the toxic. Oh, and there's a fan. We can research everything from there. Toxic waters, blue flashes flicker across the rocks. And across the shattered strata of rocks. Toxic waters, the sickly, pale green light filters down into the rocks. And a bloom fan, species logged. So we're gonna get a note from you. I'm naming these bloom fans. When we finally get out of this place, I'll update the base's taxonomy logs. Good idea. Pale, delicate fans that feed on the bloom, filtering it through their bodies using a catalytic dust to counter its toxicity. Alright. Now the question goes, do we head north or do we head south? We should probably sample first. Fan dust. Whatever the shelled creatures are, they require it to metabolize things. No, you can't sort your inventory there. That's a shame. Should we continue heading south or should we head north again? I'm banking on north. I should have probably read up before. Did I read them? Oh yeah, I did. Yeah. There. Huge plates of layered rocks make the floor here into a jagged pattern of small overhangs. Toxic waters. The rock outcrops of this area are clogged with strings of microbial growth which dance in the slight current. Oh, there's another creature over there. Rock outcrop. Large bulbous rock emerges out from the rock floor. Silt gathers in the winding cracks that score its surface. There. Back into oxygen. Appreciated. Oh, we've drained up so much oxygen so quickly. I would prefer not to consume this for oxygen. Alright. Metal traces. The ghost of some equipment lines in the silt. One of the many pieces lost in Minea's expeditions into the bloom. So yeah, Minea was absolutely obsessed with the bloom for some reason. It is cool as hell, and that is a base above us. I just noticed that, barely in the top of our vision. I'm guessing that's the edge of the bloom as well. So we'll be able to make it with the oxygen we have. I'm sure of it. Scorched plain. The nearby bubble sits alone on the flat plain, scorched by the chemical processes of billions of metabolizing cells. More silicate skeletons, I will happily take that. These beautiful, lifeless shapes, like a sculptor's abandoned works, gather around the way station, rocking gently in the current. Sphere fragment. Bubble's edge. The side of the bubble seems so close to the way station. If it were to shrink, any foothold we have in this green desert would be lost. Nesting creatures, like the nests themselves, which are woven from transparent threads. The bubbles which protect them also seem to be have a delicate skin. Crystal cylinders. The nests of the way station protectors. Without a swarm of iridescent life, the station would be little more than a rust-eaten frame. So, this is corrosive as hell. It must have been a struggle to assemble the metallic cage of this way station so deep into the bloom. What led minea out here? That is a question, for sure. Finally, a way station. Yeah. Oh yeah, and by the way, I'm enjoying a lovely coffee. With this active, we can call for retrieval all across the bloom. Useful when we run low on oxygen, for sure, yeah. Open the terminal and we can resupply and see if minea left any map data behind. Terminal available. Last access, history cleared. Power, oxygen, both are very helpful. Downloading that map data. Okay, I've got her logs here. A lot of trips back and forth between here and a laboratory? Oh, so there's going to be a laboratory further up. And I'm guessing that's... must have set it up a remote lab somewhere deeper into the bloom. Yeah. I mean, it would be worthwhile to research this. She spent months making trips to it, ferrying some materials from elsewhere in the bloom to here, to there. She was studying something important to her. The bloom, and bloom being as powerful as algae when it first appeared on Earth. We'll have to find that lab. I'll log the coordinates on the dive map when we head back. Alright, so the game just wants us to swing back. I want to swing over here quick. This is a sample candidate. Nest workers. And we're full. Alright, so we should probably head back. Oh my goodness. Oh yeah, and my Wi-Fi is completely out, so good fucking luck me trying to make sure I have any of my information correctly. I do have data on my cell phone, but I'm not particularly a fan of using it unless it's an actual emergency. I wonder why it's off anyway. Could be the thunderstorm. Let's just have no. Hey, are you back with me? Yep, good. I wanted to ask you about the bloom. I've been trying to understand what is causing it. I'm guessing it's going to be something like mold, where it's producing the toxin in order to protect itself. It seems unlikely that we are looking at a stable ecosystem. It has to be a unique event. Quite possible. Mold bloom of some kind? And yet the creatures have rapidly and effectively adapted to these conditions. How is it possible? Could be it's happened in the past? There's something we aren't seeing. Something minea was investigating too. Or maybe the bloom was here first, and this is the last of it. Do you think she knows something we don't? Yeah, it's for sure. She has to. Maybe she's holed up in the lab mentioned in the map data, waiting for us. Possibly. I wouldn't stake your luck on it. Let's find that lab. I can agree with that, though. We have a lot of new friends to sample. You know, I should probably leave some of these in my inventory. Yay, sorted. Alright. Let's check out the lab. Nest workers. No relevant taxonomy entries found. Lab analysis error. Fan dust. Fan bloom. Bivalve shell. Taxonomy entry updated. Why did that cause an error? Possibly we just haven't discovered it yet. Oh, yes. Alright, taxonomy. My favorite part of this game. Okay. Bivalve, so it's a relative that's a spore catcher. Close, relatively close relative too. Oh, last two parts are different, so actually not that close. Alright. Bivalve bloom. Alright. Bloom veins conceal themselves in bronze-colored shells most of the time, only coming out when the opportunity to feed presents itself. Highly attuned to the currents and flows of the bloom, bivalve bloom veins take advantage of any break in the bloom's flow to unfold their shells and feed. They feed primarily on the bloom's microbial growth itself, able to quickly establish and maintain a feeding zone of oxygenated water. When a bloom vein tires, it will then retreat back into its shell, burn itself in the silt once more. I would like to understand more about how the bloom veins are able to feed directly on the microbes of the bloom. Considering the extremely high toxicity, perhaps something we uncover here could be useful in future expeditions into the unforgiving landscape of the bloom. We need food sample analysis to research that, but we do have a theory. After being lucky enough to come across an entire bloom vein shell, analysis has provided some possible explanations for the creature's neurotoxin resistance. So it is neurotoxic. Neurotoxic and very corrosive. So it hurts both living things and mechanical things. The shell itself was found to have radial patterns of tiny holes in certain areas, which were found to have high concentrations of the bloom's neurotoxin. It seems that when the bloom vein is in its hidden resting state, it exudes the neurotoxin through its shell, processing the glucose and the bloom's growth separately. This exuded neurotoxin coats the bloom vein's shells and the surrounding area, making the creature potentially deadly to any predator. This adaptation of the bloom is therefore a highly effective defense mechanism, even if the bloom vein itself is constantly on the edge of a frenzied neurotoxin-induced death. We just need food samples to finish off that. And then the bloom fan, first one of its gill fans species. Bloom fans are delicate and pale fan-shaped creatures that filter the toxic microbes of the bloom. As tall as a human with a wide span of pale spines that form a feather-like shape, they are instantly recognizable in the green clouded water of the bloom, anchoring themselves into the sand with a central stem. The bloom fan's filtration leads into a small patch of oxygenated water on the leeward edge of the fan. Bloom fans seem to be sensitive to currents, adjusting their angle for better catch of microbial growth. These can often be seen shivering in order to free their delicate filaments from the bloom's growth. How can they contend with the high toxicity and deoxygenated waters of the bloom is unclear. Perhaps an analysis of the dust that coats their spines may offer some clues. A good thing we got that. A close analysis of the fan dust shows that the fans catalyze the bloom's microbes into massively increasing their oxygen production, to the point that the cells themselves are torn apart by the oxygen that bubbles out from within them. Oh, so it fucking forces... I don't even know how to explain that. So that's some sort of almost phage-like. So it must puncture the cell walls with some sort of phage and inject something that'll cause the bloom cells to burst, producing oxygen that the fan requires. That is a risky strategy, but it'd be hard for something to evolve a defense to it. This is why the bloom fans can be heard to be fizzing when in close proximity, and suggests that oxygen is the primary nutrient that the fans acquire from filtering. Interestingly, this analysis suggests that the bloom's microbes are oxygen producing by nature, and may be a form of algae. It is only in their sheer density blocking their access to sunlight, which means they no longer produce oxygen, but instead choke and poison the ocean. So these are like toxic algae blooms. So the bloom is toxic algae, like I thought it might be. Because fun fact in our world's history is when algae first came into existence, it caused a severe mass extinction. Because before algae, a lot of the creatures on Earth were not oxygen breathers. And so the algae did such a good job of, switching everything over to oxygen from carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide to a lesser extent. I believe carbon monoxide ends up getting broken down by certain plants and stuff like that too. Though I believe it's to a much less extent because it is quite toxic even to them. Or is it naturally broken down by ultraviolet radiation? I cannot remember specifically. But something has to. Or had to. Meanwhile, it seems unlikely that the fans live on oxygen alone. What other nutrient sources might bloom fans use to support themselves? I'm presuming they have a proper root, maybe? Or maybe they eat the bursted cells, which is what my first guess would be. But that is certainly a psychotic way to produce oxygen, and I love them. Alright, dive map, let's see. Oh goodness, the bloom is huge. Alright. Is this entire... Okay, so based off the geometry, I'm gonna presume the bloom is this entire section. And even beyond there, even. We're actually nearing the edge of the map. Oh. 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 Oh, we got a lot more map to explore. Bloom froth bubble. Bloom fan stem. Alright, so we got all the samples in this area. No point in exploring that further. Alright. Oh goodness, so we gotta head south and fast. Or at least figure out a stable way of doing it. That lab will be very, very helpful. So let's first stock up on resources. Because we're not making this journey without them. Bubble's Edge, this fizzling border between the bloom and the oxygenated water within, is a welcome sight. Northern Bloom. From here, the bloom rolls out over a vast plain scraped clean of sand by vicious currents. This is as far north as we'll go. Way station. Alright, so we gotta head this way. So we need to head south. And quickly. Yeah, I already read that. Warm equipment. Abandoned in the bloom by minea, it is impossible to tell what this oxidized scrap once was. Toxic waters, clumps and trails of microbial growth trail across my visor. Nothing of interest, just more microbial clouds. Rock outcrop, little sand is gathered around the disbanded base of the rock, enough to hide a creature from the bloom, perhaps. We know you. Alright. Yay. Oh, this is going to be quite the sprint. Toxic waters. Growths clump in the eaten away dents in the rock floor, as if funneling into the planet. Get ready. We got sprint. Toxic waters, rolled rock formations sit wreathed in a green cloud. Filtering fan. Hell yeah. You are such a welcome respite, you fans. My goodness. Now our inventory is full. You, my friend, are amazing and super helpful. Twisting in the direction of the bloom's flow, this fan cuts a slit of clear water through the microbial clouds. Very, very good repeating. Silt plain. The rock floor here is covered in a thin layer of silt, unmoving by the currents or creatures. Yeah, there's not much life out here. Oh, 2 past toxic waters. This part of the bloom is strangely still. The green cloud suspended in the water. Scattered and kneaded away by debris of Minea's expedition spreads out across the rock shelf, gathering tiny drifts of sand. Toxic waters. Among the green clouds, the polychroma light of the huge bubble glows. Oh, there's a bubble over there. Yes, bubble. Shimmering bubble edge. Silicate skeletons. Oh, shimmering bubble. This bubble has an iridescent sheen, its skin being made out of thousands of tiny particles which reflect light. Okay, so I'm gonna burn you for oxygen, because it is just necessary. Alright. Oh. Silicate skeletons, open geometric forms, beautiful and strange, sit huddled within the skin of the bubble. Silicate skeletons, these delicate silicate forms, like scattered geodesic domes, seem emptied of all life. What lived here before the bloom came? Nesting creatures. When their protective bubbles begin to fail, these creatures burst from their nest to repair them, swarming out to weave more threads. Crystal cylinders. At the center of the bubble, rounded shapes sit in the bed of silt. Around them, the water dances with streaks of refracted light. Okay, so I'm gonna... Oof, top off. I love this crazy interesting one. No, I'm actually got full inventory. I am not complaining. All 3 of these are useful. Bubble skin. Though physical objects seem to be able to pass the fizzing skin of the bubble The obstructs the bloom's microbial clouds. White sand, millions of tiny grains of perhaps broken down remains of those silicate skeletons gathered here in soft, sparkling waves. So neither one's a harvest point, just really cool. Just really cool world building. Alright, so a lab is down that way. Still further. Away from the protective bubble, the bloom regains its sickly green. Unfortunately. Alright. Toxic waters, heavy concentrations of microbial life turn the water here into a flat green wall. The bloom seems endless. Yes, it does. Silt bank. You. Feed. Whew. Feed faster. Create a little bubble. There we go. Small holes, perhaps burrows, dot the waves of the silt. Bloom growth. These olive green clumps of bubbles seem to gather where these microbial growths seem big enough to log and sample. Let's see if we can tell it what it can tell us about this place. This little current and growth of the bloom settles. Alright. Dense bubbles. Globular bubbles sit under the overhang in the corroded rock. This would be a good place to sample the bloom's growth. Yes, it would be. Alright. Gonna make myself a safe patch. I had a feeling it would be multiple anyway. 3 of them? Alright, I'm gonna toss this other one back. I'm spoiling you. Those are very heavy. Corroded rocks. The rocks deep inside this scar shine with a strange smoothness. Dense bubbles. Room growth. Along this towering pillar of world rock, opaque green bubbles. I'm just gonna toss my eggs down. There. Barely within the range, both of them. There. That way I can read this, right? Around this towering pillar of world rock, opaque green bubbles have gathered, pouring out of the eroded rock. Bloom growth. These bubbles form in the densest areas of the bloom growth. They might be the best clue as to what the bloom was made of. Toxic water. Soft currents push silt into the corroded holes of the rock shelf. So whatever is producing the base of this is underneath the rocks. And I see the lab there underneath us. Burning plain. South of the bloom's ridge, the current is non-existent. Clumps of microbial growth hang in the water above a nasty plain. Research site. Through the green, I can see the skeleton of Minea's remote laboratory, as fractured and remote as Minea herself. These strange rocks are beautiful, if only the bloom didn't keep us from lingering longer. No, I'm going this way. It's in another bubble. Bloom Lab. Corroded module. Oh, this place was pressurized at some point. It must have taken months of work to establish this lab. And just weeks of corrosion for it to all fall into ruin. That much is for sure. It looks like Minea was gathering those mineral skeletons and studying them. Oh. What secrets have you uncovered, Minea? How are those strange silicon spheres worth all of this? Bloom froth. Dark green bubbles that form... Alright, so we won't get much from observing this stuff. I've logged the species. Let's analyze the samples back at base. Good idea. Oh. We might as well finish reading it. Dark green bubbles that form in the most dense areas of the bloom where there is little current to provide water flow. Assembled from Bloom Lab. Assembled from modules extracted from the base. Ace. Minea's lab, now exposed to the corrosion of the bloom, sits silently in the silt. Bubble edge. Beyond the bubble, the angular shapes of the lab's second modules sit silently, wrapped in cords of microbial growth. As we are now, Minea must have relied on the active bubbles these spheres provide to study the bloom and its ecosystem. And we've got new species logged. I'll call these weavers for those beautiful nests and bubbles they weave. What would we do without them? That much is for sure. They are very helpful. And these weaved edges are... I would be obsessed with this in the real world. A little naturally weaved barrier of almost silk. Nests of small iridescent creatures which maintain protective bubbles around their territory, shielding them from the balloon. As we are now, Minea must have relied on... Yep, that was one we've already read. Silicate skeletons. More of these ornate silicate globes sit in the silt. These bubbles must have been both their refuge and their grave. Dissected skeletons. The equipment here suggests Minea was studying the mineral skeletons. Where she has cut through the silica shines pure silver. So it organically makes a silicon metal. Sorry, Minea, but I require these for my survival. Nest workers. Oof, they're way too reliable. I'll give myself a bit more energy using them on the bacterial colonies. I can always get more. They seem rather plentiful. Melted module. These modules are so rapidly melting away. Are the bloom's microbes metabolizing the metal itself? That is something that is very rare in nature. Also, I'm not alone in seeing this. That's a module I don't have yet. That's not a creature there, Sarah. Alright. Wasn't there another section over here we could see from here? Yeah, there was another dot there. Bloom froth. Just probably for that. Alright. Let's go. Dark opening. The hold metal floor in the module reveals an opening to a passage below. We're going down. Oh, it's protected in here. Steel passage. Minea must have laid this under the lab when she was constructing it. The water is clear here, shielded from the microbial clouds. Oh, now this is where we'll find something useful. Hidden workshop. Machines glint in the dark. Papers and tools lie still on the still speckled surfaces. It is as if the scene has been frozen, captured in time. This is not just a lab, it's a workshop. She is building something down here. Probably something to prepare her for the bloom. It's a suit. It looks like she was modifying an old atmospheric suit. Hard suit. How deep was she planning to go? These are verified for beyond 1,000 meters. Oh, she wants to go all the way deep. I'm going to see what I can pull from the notes and documents here. Suit rated for 1,000 meters. That's Some of them are still partially readable. The lack of water flow must have kept them in good condition. Yeah, so whilst that's rare in saltwater, she was probably speccing the suit for use beyond the drop-off, modifying it with silicate skeletons. Artificers, she calls them. Exoskeletons of nanofiber geolith protecting a silicon carbide core. Silicon carbide? The pressure resistance of their exoskeleton is unprecedented for a biological material. That would take the depth rating of the hard suit well past 3,000 meters. Incredible is a light way to put it. But why go over the drop-off at all? I know at like 1,000 feet you have to switch oxygen mixes. What was pushing her forward? She was incredibly driven, desperate even. She mentioned sending ROVs down to the abyssal plain, cobbled together from bits of the base. All of them were lost, and her work on the suit failed. That's where the notes seemed to end. Most of the recent documentation mentions another way. Did she make it? How? The suit was so close to completion. Why abandon it? She wanted to make a full submarine. We have to make that dive. Yeah, you'd have to make a crazy good... If I can fix up this suit, we can take it over the drop-off. Perhaps Minea managed it. We need to follow. I can do this. We can do this. I hope so. Let's get back outside and call the drone. I'm in agreement there. Just in case we're waiting for the drone. Might as well do it in comfort. Alright. We'll need that retrieval, please. Safe mode restarting, resyncing with Bacal OS, downtime 2.4 hours, I think that said. Glad to see you back online. Sorry for the rush, but we gotta move. Yeah, indeed. I've been going through Minea's notes from her lab, and from what I can tell, she attempted to... I don't like that sound of that, re-dive. I figured it was going to be the case. So, yes, the human body, with some degree of care, can handle some ridiculous steps. That's why she left her suit behind. She must have opened it up and descended. I don't know what you were thinking. There's no way she could free dive thousands of meters to the ocean floor, unless you had an oxygenated fluid filling your lungs to keep them from collapsing. But that's what she did, willingly, and we're going after her. I would explain the suit we found on the pillars. We need to dive now. I've been working on the suit, and it's almost ready. Used section of Minea's failed hard suit to modify our suit. Now it's a full atmospheric dive suit. It won't get us to the depth we need, but we'll get close. Internally, we should be able to maintain 1 atmosphere of pressure for me and that casing of yours. It'll work just like before, but our depth rating is massively increased. Hell yeah. Upgrades. We can just hit 2, maybe 3,000 meters. The suit is in the bay, so load whenever samples you need. I've marked the drop-off on the map. We can dive there directly and search for any evidence there. I have no idea why she would do this. It's suicide, but she seemed to believe she could do it. She must have done the liquid breathing strat. However, the human lungs aren't built for that, unless they found one that is less viscous than the current. The human lungs just tire after a relatively short while. Most of them are fluorocarbons. They can dissolve quite a significant amount of oxygen, and carbon dioxide, which, in theory, you could do for a proper exchange. However, we do not have a proper way of getting the carbon dioxide out nicely yet. But this is a sci-fi world. They might have solved that. Alright, let's toss everything in here. We need to be scanning. We can sort our inventory after. Scan time. Multiple taxonomy entries updated. Does this result with anything yet? Yay, nesting weavers taxonomy updated. Alright, so we're missing out on that. There. I'm gonna end the episode there, though. Thank you all very much for joining me on this adventure. Make sure to take good care of yourselves. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed. Don't forget to share with a friend if you think they'll enjoy as well. I'm loving this series way too much. So I hope you are as well. Bye for now. Enjoy yourself a nice little rest. Bye.